From Talbot Rising. Nothing is more important to parents than the quality of their children's education, and it's fair to say that public education is under stress. Betsy DeVos, the new Education Secretary, has made alternatives to public education a top priority. In Maryland, a massive shift is underway to implement the successor to No Child Left Behind. Locally, more and more schools are finding that more and more children are using schools as a kind of social safety net, which is putting pressure on schools even as they're facing tougher and tougher budgets. So today we have with us two deeply knowledgeable people in these issues. Kelly Griffith, who's the superintendent of schools for Talbot County since 2014 and been in the Talbot County schools for 3 decades. And Andy Burke, who is a teacher for 22 years and head of the Talbot County Education Association. So welcome.
Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Yes. So talk to us about the Talbot County School District. What would residents be most surprised by?
I think the residents from Talbot County would be surprised at the diversity of our population and the diversity of our programs and the excellence of our teaching staff. So let's talk a little bit about our student demographics. That's probably the best way to start. We have 4,600 students. 60% of our students are white, 17% Hispanic, 16% are African American. And I think that might surprise some people. We have 20 languages, native languages spoken in our homes in Talbot County.
Wow.
English being one of them.
Yeah.
And so we do have English language learner services in our schools because we teach English and in English.
Right.
So I think that would be an aha for some folks. 44% of our students receive free or reduced meals because of their economically disadvantaged at this point, which is probably higher than what people would think.
Yes.
Probably about 15 years ago, it was more in like 28%. So it's definitely, we've had an increase in that area. That does bring some challenges just for the pure fact that the schools do become a safe haven. They also, we provide medical services because we have wellness centers in our schools. We have, nurse practitioners. We have psychological services. We have social services. So we've become really a community place. I think other things that people would be surprised is the diversity of what we offer. We have in the class of 2017, we had 85% of our students, up to 85-87%, are looking at a 2 or 4 year college, and that includes technical schools. We do have some of our students go in the military and to right into work. But we had 55% of our students actually complete an advanced placement course, which is a college credit course, or take dual enrollment, which is through Chesapeake College. And we offer career and technology completers. And we had 44% of our students actually, they will graduate with a certificate in a skill. And that could be anywhere from auto technology to biomed to engineering. And I think people would be surprised by that.
I think it sounds like you all are doing a remarkable job, but I'm surprised by the more than 40% of kids who need some kind of help. And yet Talbot County is one of the wealthiest counties and has the lowest tax base. So how do you explain that disconnect?
Well, first of all, I want to wish you happy birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Congratulations.
Happy birthday.
I want to say that in my 22 years teaching with Dr. Griffith for her and the Board of Ed, it's been exciting to see that despite who walks in our front doors, everybody gets the benefit of high quality education.
So true.
I look at the Jane or the Timothy or the Jorge or the Richard, and when he or she walks into my classroom, they have full access to a public education, and we're very fortunate to have that here. I've enjoyed that. To your point, the poverty issue. Upon reflection, after every day of school, we teachers sometimes collaborate and say things like, did you notice this about him or her? I wonder if they got a meal today. Or so instead of just pausing their reflection, we actually have taken action with Dr. Griffith's leadership. We send something like 155 backpack meals home every Friday afternoon with our children.
Yeah.
This is a K through 12 response. And it's this community, the people of this community responded. I talked to leaders like Megan Cook, and I talked to my leader, Kelly Griffith, and they're taking action. So that's one area that's of great concern. I don't think we have an education problem here in Talbot County Public Schools. We've got a poverty concern, and we need to address it. So we're taking those first steps. One of the steps that I would like to see, we at Talbot County Education Association, we're the bargaining unit representative for all support staff, such as bus drivers, custodians, secretaries, instructional assistants, and certificated staff, teachers, guidance counselors, etc. The response we would need is the financial backing. We have a long-standing relationship with the great community organizations, one of which is my friend Ted Doyle with Talbot County Talbot County Taxpayers Association, where they're investigating opportunities to responsibly participate in a tax property revenue cap increase. That's going to be our targeted message over the next 18 months.
So talk about that, because that's a little complicated to sort of unpack that. What is the tax cap?
Well,
In 4 words or less.
In basically to capture it, Talbot County property revenues are well under, property taxation rates are well under what is at least average in the state of Maryland. I'm going to go ahead and exclude Baltimore City because it's an outlier. We would be an outlier way lower than what would be average, reasonable, to support the public services such as public safety,
Roads Department.
roads, public education, and what have you. So we're crafting a message that we would want to respond to.
So probably the best way to describe it is, when we look at our property tax, per 100 assessed, we are the lowest property tax in the state of Maryland, and we're 30 cents lower than the next lowest.
Wow.
So it's pretty low. It's pretty low. The property tax revenue cap is really putting the county council in a situation where their hands are tied, because the tax revenue cap basically says 2% or CPI.
And CPI is
CPIU,
CPIU,
Which is
the urban measure
Cost.
of this.
cost
yeah.
per
index
something.
revenue.
Okay.
And basically what that does is it's 2% or what the CPIU is, and it's been like 0.7%. So they've only been able to generate revenue at 0.7% to go to these services. Where there is more revenue to be gained that could go to the services to improve the economic engine of our county, which is our school district. I believe our school district is the economic force in this community. We are producing students that are going to be working in this community for the community. We want to make sure that we're getting all that we can receive from the county council, and I think their hands are tied. So what we want to do is work together with Andy and the county council. As a matter of fact, the county council and the Board of Education are planning some evening meetings to discuss this and what can we do. We are very appreciative of what they do give us, but we also know that we're not getting our bare bones budget approved fully. And we know that our children deserve that.
When you look at the Consumer Price Index urban measure, it was assumed back in the days when this was crafted as a protection, it was assumed that you would hit 2%. That's why it was crafted very carefully by a great group of leaders at that time.
And when was this? We're
Oh
talking
gosh,
80s or-
late 80s.
Yeah.
I came here in 95 and it was well in place and entrenched, and we've been battling that ceiling for quite some time.
is Talbot the only one that has this cap? Or
Well,
other
when you
counties?
look at other states such as California, they did something similar, and those jurisdictions have all reversed or canceled those pieces of legislation. So it's up to the registered voters. When we look at the registered voters in Talbot County, we have to capture between 10 and 20% of their signatures to build a referendum question, such as, is it appropriate to raise X cents per 100 assessed value? So that's where we are. We're at that stage of partnering and asking questions.
And so has there been a proposal, how high to lift the cap, or?
Well,
That's a
Dr.
good
Griffith and her Board of Education, TCA, we've been asking that question. I sat down yesterday with a close friend of mine, Mr. Andy Hollis, County Manager, and he brought his staff in to listen to our proposal. I can read it to you if you want to hear it.
Sure.
The question that we're going to be asking is, the referendum question for 2018 in November. There shall be an increase of 5 cents per $100 assessed value on property, so that 2 cents shall be used for public safety, 2 cents shall be used for public education, and 1 cent shall be allocated by county council. The meeting yesterday was productive. I was directed up to the state elections board. Miss Donna Duncan and I will be meeting soon. And we want to take the steps appropriate so that the voters of Talbot County can support by their decision through referendum, hey, where are our dollars going to go? What I'm really excited about is that the Board of Ed with Dr. Griffith put out an information flyer of the impact of what an increase might look like. It's out on the website, talbotschools.org. And what it looks like is, if you have a $100,000 property, here's what you would pay. If you have a $250,000 property, here's what you would pay. We have extreme wealth in Talbot County. We're very fortunate. We've got extreme beauty in the nature and the environment. That's why people come here. About half of our working staff reside here, and we want to take that and capture that and improve it. So that's something that's of interest to me.
So are you optimistic that there's something?
I am.
Something.
And we've been talking about this since I've been in this position. I know we've really been collaborating. It's been a more collaborative discussion, which is very hopeful. I do know that the County Council and the Taxpayers Association met last year at the library and had the conversation. I think we all have to be cognizant that this is taxpayers' money, so we want to make sure it's purposeful, intentional. And I do know that the Board of Education works really hard to make sure that the budget that they do approve is truly a budget of need and not of want. We know that there's a lot of things we would want for our students and education, but we also know that we, with this limited resources, we sometimes have to give a little, and they're receptive to that.
What would happen if the tax cap isn't raised? What do you face if you stay as you are now?
In education, there is a law of maintenance of effort. So based on the enrollment that you have the year before, the county council must fund you at that maintenance of effort, which is the minimum amount per student. Unfortunately, if you get the same amount every year, because our enrollment is pretty much stable, about 4,600 each year. If you get the same amount each year, you're not able to do anything different. And quite frankly, you have to do more with less.
Right.
Because we do need to make sure we have competitive pay for our teachers. We do need to make sure we have updated resources. We do need to make sure that we continue to maintain our buildings so that the students are in a good learning environment. So receiving a maintenance of effort budget every year after year after year could be detrimental to a school district. Now, we have been fortunate the past 2 years, the county council has given us more than maintenance of effort. Actually, this year they actually put on a tax for us. What we're looking at is, let's not have to have that discussion every year, and let's start really looking at how we can make that happen.
I want to pivot and talk about something that you introduced. The transition to Every Student Succeeds Act.
Yes, which was just what I was going to ask about next.
That's a great pivot because ESSA,
Yeah.
as we call it, Every Student Succeeds Act.
It doesn't roll off your tongue.
Acronyms are always a little bit messy.
Yeah.
We're optimistic that the conversation will continue, and the law says by mutual agreement we shall come to decision making. So in the past, I'll go ahead and say it, it was dictated down from the feds because we were chasing the money. Whenever there's money available, of course we would wish to have it here locally.
Right.
But that was a very difficult struggle where it was a test score, and standardized testing is not bad.
Right.
But the outcome of standardized testing was perhaps we were too focused and limited by just that test score.
Right.
So what we're excited about and what I'm optimistic for in ESSA is that there's going to be value and attention and conversation paid to the inputs of education, not just the output.
Right.
What did they get on that test?
Right. So when you mean inputs, what do you mean? Tell
Sure.
me, give me an example. Yeah.
From my understanding and what we're looking at as educators, the attendance rate of the child. Are they showing up to school well rested and healthy and well fed? Well, we're ensuring lots of that with our wraparound community-based services.
Right.
We've got a pretty good handle on attendance. We're extremely high in the state of Maryland for attendance, and we monitor it, if not daily, we reflect on it monthly in the public meetings. So attendance.
Well-rounded curriculum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The curriculum is an important piece that's constantly being monitored. We've got great language in our contract that says we participate in that. And even yesterday, I had a conversation with Mr. Elton Holmes, one of my leaders in education. He's the math coordinator for the county. And he was asking questions about math curriculum, the geometry. How much of the proofs do we want to include? I don't want to get in the weeds on
Right.
that, but that's one of my responsibilities to participate.
I think another big one is culture.
Okay, the culture of the school through
School.
surveys, looking
Right.
at the parent survey results, the
Teacher
student survey results, the staff survey results. They're well publicized. And what I hear my leader, Kelly, do every month is say, here's the numbers, here's what we looked at. It's a qualitative analysis of the look and the feel of the school. It's also a quantitative analysis.
So what I remember, I was in New York at the time, but No Child Left Behind was hugely controversial. And
We
I
call
was-
that No Child Left Untested.
Yeah, right, right.
Yes.
Do you feel that our parents going to embrace this more, do you think, the ESSA? Are they happier with it?
As a mom of 3 boys, I would think they would.
Yeah.
And as a superintendent, I think they would.
And
The
why? Just
difference
flexibility?
between No Child Left Behind, you're basically, a lot of things are being dictated. There's not as much flexibility to get some of that qualitative data. But you're also, with ESSA, with No Child Left Behind, the goal was to have every single student at one point, which we know is not possible.
Right.
Every single student, because they all come at different levels, with different needs, with different abilities.
Right.
So with ESSA, it's what it does is focus on student growth, making sure every student is growing.
Right.
And the other thing, it really encourages us to be innovative. And I would think that parents would want us to be more innovative at looking at more career and technology pathways, at looking at more ways to be able to allow kids to get dual degrees, whether it's a associate degree and a high school degree, more certifications. So I do believe that with the ESSA, and as Andy explained, I think it's more comprehensive and it shows really more about the student profile.
Right.
One of the things that ESSA does require is that we do have kind of a dashboard or a profile of our school district, and each school has a dashboard or a profile. It still has test scores, so we know that that's important, but it weights those. How much is the test score worth, but then how much are all these other soft skills, study skills, time management? Those are things that the workforce is looking for.
Right.
It encourages us to get to community partners, which I would hope that our parents would see as a benefit. More of our kids doing internships and externships and those opportunities out in the community.
Is there more local control?
Yes.
Yes. So is that the idea?
That is entirely our interest.
Yes, yeah.
Whenever there's participation legislatively by the state, that sometimes confuses the public and it sometimes is perceived as interference.
Right.
When we look at local decision making, local autonomy, my goodness, we have an elected Board of Education. And the people put those Board of Ed members there. So that's a representative body that can certainly make decisions, and they're education minded. So we our Board of Ed has every ability to decide and vote and do as they need locally.
What's the time frame for all of this?
Well, I can tell you that the last board meeting, they have a draft out now. There is a survey, so people can go online, fill out a survey with the draft. There's a draft that's several hundred pages, but there is a condensed summary, so people could look at the summary, fill out the survey. They're taking all of the survey information through probably August 18th. Then when they have their next board meeting. From what I understand, they're going to have 2 more board meetings, I believe, before it's due to the United States Department of Education by September 17th. So they're going to finalize it. So there is a draft plan out now. It'll be finalized in September. It will go to USDE for review. They will send it back within the next 2 or 3 months, where then we would have to either tweak it, modify it to meet their standards. So the timeline is really this next school year will be the year that it's decided what's going to happen in Maryland.
So that's another pivot. So we can pivot now to, what do you think the impact of President Trump's or Betsy DeVos's approach to education will be in Maryland, and as it filters down to Talbot?
Well, I would like to start with, you're talking about the federal government, and I think what the federal government is doing with ESSA is giving more control to the states, the locals. There's one.
Right.
We do, as a school system in Talbot County, 1% of our budget, approximately $700,000, comes from our federal government. One of the concerns that I do have is that there are federal and state laws that are mandated that we service students, and I'm going to give you an example. For an example, special education, we have speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy. We have to make sure we transport some of our special ed students to and from school using specialized buses.
Right.
That's all mandated by the state. That is actually paid for through federal funding. So I am concerned if that is cut in any way through the federal government, then that means I will have to figure out, and the board, we will have to figure out how will we find that other $700,000 to be able to do these, because they are by law required, which they should be.
Right.
So that is a concern. Our school nurses are in this also with federal funding, Medicaid, as you know. Another area that's a concern is we have a 21st Century grant with the Multicultural Center, and the Multicultural Center is a true partner of ours. They provide wraparound services for our students with English as a second language. We work with them very closely to not only make sure the students are learning the English quickly and getting some extra support, but also working with the parents and making sure the parents are able to navigate our system and learn English and be very productive in their child's educational journey.
Right.
So we are concerned if that's cut, that will be a concern to us.
But privatization is not really relevant, do you think, to...
In the state of Maryland, we've got very good charter school laws.
We do.
We are in support of the current Maryland charter school laws because all decisions fall within and underneath a local board of education.
Correct.
As we talked about before, they're elected here in Talbot County. So therefore, it wouldn't be siphoning off monies. It would be in partnership with, and therefore we're in support of that. Now, that being said, you mentioned Betsy DeVos, the current Secretary of Education, whose interests for Maryland would be to change the Maryland law. We are against that. We would not wish to see any changes whatsoever, because the successes of Maryland charter schools are on such a small scale for a targeted group of students that's measured in the hundreds of children impacted positively.
Right.
We're in public schooling. We're dealing with thousands, tens of thousands of children in the state of Maryland. And here locally, our 4,600 children are our priority in Talbot County Public Schools.
Right.
We would not wish to see any dollars at all be siphoned off and away from what we're doing now. Per pupil expenditure is the key.
And so far, there's no conversation about that.
Oh, there's plenty of conversation.
Is there
There's a
any
lot of conversation.
effort?
There's a lot of conversation.
Is there any
Believe it.
effort to do that? Or?
Well, you've touched
Yeah,
upon a great aspect of participating in Talbot County. I'm a dues-paying member of Maryland State Education Association, and as a committee person, we 73,000 dues payers of MSEA, we have a large voice in lobbying efforts legislatively, and we have protected the current law, and we have advocated for maintaining what we're doing right in Maryland. So I'm very proud of that.
And actually, 2 weeks ago, I went to Capitol Hill with some superintendents, and it was a really great experience for me in that kind of a setting, and met with different senators talking about the importance of keeping the structure the way it is and not siphoning off those funds for school vouchers.
Right.
So very important.
Right.
So that was a great experience, and they really did listen, and we did meet with them,
Oh, wow.
which doesn't always happen. So we were grateful.
So if you're a parent, what should you be most concerned about, and what can you do to help to ensure the best education for your kid?
I'm a parent of public school children. Tom's going into 9th grade, and when Tom was at Easton Middle School, 6th grade, the amount of attention he got individually, specifically in the pre-engineering coursework,
Wow.
it really maintained his skill set the past several years. He's now going to high school, and I'm very excited. Public school is the right thing to do for our parents.
Right.
My daughter Emily is transitioning out of elementary school into middle school, and I'm excited for her too because she'll have every opportunity of being successful. The public schooling system is a success.
Right.
When I speak to parents in the community, when they ask me, I tell them run to our schools, open the door and go in because people are waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited and very energized. It's the reason why I'm choosing to be here and continue my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I want all of our parents to know that we are committed to providing a great public education to their children. I want them to register to vote. I want them to vote for public education when it's on that ballot. I think it's very important that they're involved in that process.
Right.
I also think it's very important that they go attend those parent conferences before school starts. We have parent conferences with students from pre-K through grades 8 before school starts. We have 96% of our parents that come to those conferences, which is phenomenal.
Right.
We want that to continue.
Right.
We want them to be involved. We also want to make sure that they're staying informed by making sure their information is correct in our database system, which is called PowerSchool. Because if their information is correct, we can push out information to them of where they can go to really look at their students' work, their discipline, their attendance, their grades. We want them to be an integral part of their child's journey, and we want them to be a partner. They should be very, very proud of our school district, and we are certainly proud of having them as partners.
Wow.
But we need their help.
Yes.
We need 5 extra cents, and we
Yeah.
talked about that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what we're looking for.
That's right.
The registered voters are our voice.
Yes.
And I always say, good, better, best, never let it rest until you're good as your better and your better is your best. And we are working to be our best, and we need our parents with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for both being here.
Thank you
and
for having us. Thank
Yes.
you for having us, and happy birthday!
Thank you very much. Thank you.